What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Social Media Mindset Podcast. You might not be able to tell, but this is Kyle. I just have a little bit of rasp in my voice from speaking a lot and being sick. And I actually, if I'm being honest, I think I like it better. So I might just be sick, Kyle, for the rest of my life because it's a pretty cool sounding voice in this mic. I'm excited and slightly nervous because the guest that I have on the show today, she's pretty much smarter than me at all things marketing, branding, right? And I'm like 5 times as old as her. And guys, I'm pumped because I have someone that if you don't know her, you're about to know her, and then you're going to look her up and you're going to be so glad that you found her on my podcast, Morgan HEINRICH. Morgan, how the heck are you?
Good. How are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing great because I'm on here with you. Because it's not very often that I get to grace the presence of a regional VP of marketing for one of the largest mortgage companies in America. And that's you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a whirlwind. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but I've been in the mortgage industry for 3 months now.
3 whole months.
3 whole months. It's a different world. Let me tell you. Well, I don't need to. You're in it. And I mean, I've worked in every industry from biotech to the interior design industry to business services, and the mortgage industry. I had no idea.
So real quick, give us because you and I, so guys, to a little backstory, Morgan and I have got to know each other really digitally and like through email, right? Working, we work together to kind of serve the movement mortgage community. And we finally got to meet in person, and I got to sit at a table with you. And you just very coy. You just were able to you were like, yeah, like I've done this. And then I did this. And I was like, what? How old are you? 100 years old? How have you been old enough to do all these different things? So give us just a real quick, rundown of your history to make you amazing at what you do today.
Well, I'll keep it short and quick. I like to first apologize that I talk so fast. I'm originally from upstate New York, born and raised by 2 parents who are entrepreneurs, small business owners. We were really raised with the mindset of putting clients first.
Yeah.
I mean, from starting out as a little league umpire to working at a gas station for years.
Oh my gosh. You didn't tell me that part. Little league umpire.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I actually did that in college too, but it's all about serving the people around you. And we were really raised with that mindset. I always tell this little snippet. My dad's a chimney sweep, and he's had his business since he got out of the military for 40 years.
Wow.
Has not advertised in, I think, 30 years. And he's just the well-known name because he's a handshake and a smile type of guy. He writes handwritten thank you notes after every single chimney cleaned. And he sends it as soon as he leaves their house. And it's that little touch of dedication and the extra mile that we were raised with. So I came to Texas, I went to TCU, fell in love with it. I worked 5 jobs in college to work my way through school. I mean, that's how I got a little bit of everything. And then I actually started interning for a startup biotech company that has now cleared out their competitors, and they're now in CVS, Walmart, Amazon, all of the top retailers. It's pretty amazing. And it was a cool experience to start my career. Yeah.
And how old are you?
26.
26. So gross.
Yeah, thanks.
So gross, right? This is why, guys, this is why I told y'all this. I love y'all so much that as a 39-year-old, I'm willing to eat crow, be humble, and bring on brilliant people that are way younger than me that I'm jealous of. And Morgan happens to be one of them. And so we could just sit here and talk about how awesome you are. And we will do that throughout the show. But you truly, honestly, I was blown away, when we were sitting on that rooftop balcony in North Carolina, because we say the word marketing and that can literally mean 1,000 things. We say the word branding, it can mean 1,000 things. We can say the word social media and it can mean 1,000 things. And so people call me a social media expert. What does that mean? Right? It doesn't mean anything other than I know how to talk about social media more than most people do. You truly, you are a marketing savant, the way your mind works, just the way you see things. And so what I want to just kind of jump in is just with where do you see people get this wrong? We start talking marketing, branding, social media. Where are they missing the boat?
I love this question and that you started with this. People think of me as social media, marketing, all of that. But my number one passion is networking and creating relationships.
I love
And that is, so I've been asked to speak at universities and large groups, the Better Business Bureau, about networking. And this is where people miss the boat, is because they think they know what people want to hear, what they want to see, and without actually talking to those people.
Yeah. I know realtors and lenders, and you're getting to know them. They're going to hear that and go, okay, cool. I'll go pass out some business cards at networking events. Right. So what is the secret to doing networking at a high level?
Listening. It's really all about listening. And one of my favorite things, so branding encompasses so much.
Yeah.
So right now, I mean, you guys are listening to this, but what you see in my background is part of my brand.
Yep.
How I present myself is part of my brand. It's designed, it's laid back, it's comfortable, it's kind of relatable, and you want to see it. And that's part of my brand. That's the experience when you meet me in person, when you see me on social media, and across the board.
Yep.
So I think that there's a disconnect between what people present themselves as on social media and then meeting people in person, actually listening to what they want to hear, what they want to know, what they want to see, and what actually gets like dispersed. So, I mean, I really think that you need to understand your audience and then kind of create your brand as to how it pertains to it. And so many people, when I talk to these business owners, these loan officers, they're like, oh, I know what it is. And I always ask, have you written it down? So my challenge that I like to do is, what are your 3 words? So for example, Kendra Scott, big Texas brand, their 3 words are family, philanthropy, and fashion. You meet them in person. I actually have met their team in person. They encompass that. They embody that. You see them on social media. You walk into one of their stores, you see that. Kyle Draper has a brand.
Go.
Yeah. And so 3 words, I actually have them written down right here. Kyle, do you want to tell me what you think your 3 words are?
Oh gosh. Whataburger is Whataburger one. Since
Should
I
be,
have
right?
a Whataburger hat on. Guys, full disclosure, Morgan said, you want me to tell you my 3 words for you before we record? And I was like, no, just give them to me when we're live. Right. I'm an expert at this. I should be able to be like, duh, I got 18 words. Just tell me. You're smarter than me. Why would I have my own?
So
you tell me.
The little trick that I like to do is open up your social media feeds and scroll through. But before you do this, write down the 3 words that you want.
Okay.
And then scroll through on social media and see what they are. You can make a list of 18 words, but we want to narrow it down to 3.
Sure. Okay.
So from what I've seen, Kyle's 3 words, and I'm reading this, are social media, family, and real estate.
Okay.
I think those are 3 words that kind of encompass who you are, what you're doing, what you're kind of focusing on. I mean, I'm sure you can narrow them down more.
Sure.
But those are 3 words that I see when I scroll through your social media, when I interact with you. Family is so important to you.
Yeah.
Social media is important to you, but also you're in the real estate and mortgage industry. And that's where you're creating your presence.
Yeah. I like that. That's like when you go get a shot and you're like, this is going to hurt so bad. And it's like, oh, that wasn't that bad. I can see that. It is very, it's interesting that this is what we're talking about, because I've talked to realtors a lot before from a different perspective. Yours is better clarity because you're just stopping at 3. But I'll often ask people, like, what words do you want said about you when you're not there? And they're going to say words, right? Like trustworthy, right? Dependable, whatever they're going to say. And then my follow-up question is, well, go watch your content. Are any of those words oozing out of it? It's so powerful, because you're seeing this in the first 3 months you've been in mortgage. We're not good at branding. Now, you are a part of truly the greatest branded mortgage company on the planet. I truly believe that, right? I mean, with Movement Mortgage. Yep. Nobody does branding better than you guys, which makes sense that that's probably the only mortgage company you would have ever even said yes to. But I think most of our industry, when they think brand, they're like, oh yeah, like a redesign on my business card, right? Yeah. Like that's the way branding is kind of looked at, but it's way more about the way your background allows us to get to know you, begin to fill you out, right? Like somebody's going to see my Whataburger hat and it kind of brands me to Texas, right? How would you give advice to the person that maybe needs to audit their lack of brand or their misrepresented brand? Yeah. What are those questions that we can kind of ask ourselves to kind of go, oh, here's my gaps.
Yep.
So that I can then go, put some good stuff in there.
And I love that you said gaps. So I actually just did a consultation with a team out of Rio Grande Valley, and we talked about their marketing. I told them to scroll through and tell me where the gaps are and how do we bridge them. So this is something that is so important, is if you don't know, so it's your one-liner. Who are you? What do you do? Who do you serve? What problems do you solve? If you don't know that,
Yeah.
you need to know it. And it, again, those 3 words, that one-liner needs to be written down. Your team members need to know who, like, what that one-liner is. And there's a book that I absolutely love. It's called Building Your Story Brand. And they talk about this in the book. And they go into detail, and they actually say, yes.
In this book?
Oh, the best book by
Yeah.
Donald Miller. I highly recommend anybody who needs to do a brand audit to do that and start over from scratch.
Okay, let me stop you because I want to tell people what you've already done. Guys, so people give books. So like people say books. I think sometimes we just say books to feel good about ourselves, like we're really smart. So just so y'all know, this building, you can't, I don't know why I'm holding it up because y'all are listening to a podcast, but I'm holding up the book that Morgan just mentioned, Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. And when I say she believes in this book, when she came on board with Movement, I was told stories by you and others of like, she wouldn't even meet with me until I read this book.
Yeah.
Because until you get it, you can't get it. Right. So what do you think? Can we just jump into the book for a sec?
Yeah, let's do it.
What do you feel like is the 1 or 2 most just profound nuggets that grace those pages?
So the number one thing that stands out to me is we often put ourselves, we talk about me. It's all about me, spotlight on me. You go on your social media page, it's all about me. You should always like present your audience as the hero. They should be the hero and you should be the guide, taking them along on a journey to solve their problem. So I'm the Obi-Wan Kenobi to you or Luke Skywalker. I mean, whatever reference you want to do, I should always be the guide and your client should be the hero. And so you should tell that story as how you solve their problems.
So good.
That's probably the biggest thing right there.
You would have been so proud of me. My closing yesterday in Milwaukee was something along the lines of, we have a room full of heroes. Ooh. I just want to guide you.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I'm so proud. That's exactly
I totally ripped it off from Donald. So when I said it, I was like, Morgan would have been proud.
And I think that's where we're missing the boat a lot of the times on social media, especially, I mean, the real estate community is they want to just focus spotlight on me, my accomplishments, how much I've sold, my numbers, where we should turn the spotlight around on them. What are you doing for them? I mean, we're truly a kind of me-centric thing. So when I'm scrolling through social media, how are you inspiring me today?
Yeah. So can I even take this deeper with you?
Yeah.
So at like a psychology level, why are we so prone to make everything about ourselves?
The world revolves around us. I mean, I honestly think that like it is your story. I mean, there's that book that you just recommended, Steal Like an Artist, and it's write the story you want to read.
So good.
And so we think that we are the main character, we're the hero, where it's more about the experience and the inspiration behind it.
Yeah, so good. And it's so true. And so before we kind of move on, what would be, what's another tip or two branding wise to kind of help people pour their energy into the right direction?
Okay, a few tips, and I've said this a billion times. If you start explaining what you do to somebody, whether that's social media posts, whether that's the handshake on the elevator, you're right into the top of the elevator, you're telling somebody what you do. If you started out by saying, oh, well, it's complicated, or you keep going into detail, you can, as soon as you confuse somebody, you lose their attention. Whether it's shooting video content, I mean, you push video content like no other.
Yeah.
If it's confusing to the 6th grader, the 8th grader, you've lost their attention. Our attention spans are so short these days that like if you start going off track on a tangent, then we lose their attention. So that's probably one of the biggest things. The second biggest thing is consistency. So along the lines of those 3 words, whether it's consistently posting, it should all be in the same realm. So say you have your 3 words written down and all of a sudden you're posting about mom tips, or I don't know, I have dogs. So you're going to see that on my social media page or content. And I start posting about something completely out of left field. You've just confused your audience again.
Yeah.
So consistency is key. I mean, define who you are in person, off the screen, when we have conversations, and stay consistent with that.
Okay. So now what do you think about if we stay on this kind of like dog thing that you just said. If my three things are social media, family, real estate, right? Well, there's other little things that I like. And so what do you call like kind of blending a little bit? So like, for example, I was doing a webinar a couple months ago and I told a story about my dog. Everybody ate it up.
Yeah.
In the comments, this was a huge, there's like 300 people on this webinar. So in the comments, they were like, we want to see your dog. We want to see your dog. So I called my dog in and I picked her up. And side note, she peed all over me. And so I had to teach the last 20 minutes of the webinar with pee all over myself. So that was super great. But my dog obviously isn't going to be a big word in my brand, but that's a way to speckle in, right? Like the humanity of me, right? Yeah. Kyle, the human that loves dogs, that wears a Whataburger hat, right? Like, so like, do you have a phrase for like what you would call, like you've got your three main buckets or pillars or whatever, but you kind of allow some minor details to kind of flow in and out of that?
So on the dog story, your dog is part of your family, right?
I mean, I don't know if I would consider
absolutely your dog is part of your family
because she's totally replaceable. So, but I for sure I get what you're saying.
Well, and I think everything should be able to tie back to your hub. I mean, so for example, during this consultation with these loan officers, one of their words were local and community. And I said, I scroll through your pages and I see nothing about anything local. I don't see any, you attending a local concert. Like I don't see any local coffee shop, local feature, anything like that.
Yeah.
So everything should be able to tie back to your hub. Say you bring up again, something random that doesn't seem to make sense, tie it back. So tie it back to social media. You could tie it back to being authentic on social media. That's a huge thing for you.
Yeah.
And like, for example, like one of my words would be marketing. I think marketing, design, and fun might be three of my words.
Why didn't you pick fun for me? I'm fun.
Yeah, you're fun. Well, it's because I wasn't being creative enough earlier. I mean, so I'm a captain of a kickball team. Super random, but
Shut up.
Fun things.
You are right now?
Yes.
That's
Come
incredible.
play on it Thursdays in Fort Worth.
I need a hip replacement, so I'm probably not playing kickball.
You can coach with me on the sideline.
Remember, I'm like 1,000 years older than you.
Absolutely not.
No, I love that. Why? Okay, because you're a legit marketing person. I do not consider myself to be a legit marketing person. I just happen to be good at an aspect of it, and so I just get lumped in. Why have we convinced ourselves that the only way to close a loan, the only way to sell a house is to always be talking about a loan or about a house?
That's what we were taught. That's what we know. And so we lean into that, but that's not building a relationship.
Yeah.
Where's building a relationship in that? And
no, it's not.
It's not. And so something that I recommend any real estate agent, loan officer, business owner, and something that I've started doing personally a couple years ago, and it's one of my favorite quotes, is be somebody who makes someone else feel like a somebody.
I love that.
And so what you can do if you want to start tying in other people into your business is featuring them. So for example, before I was in this industry, I purchased my first home. I think I was 21, 22 years old. And I had a really long 2-year experience of heartbreak back and forth. I had a loan officer who went above and beyond and a builder. It was an entire thing. And I was so grateful. My parents are not here. I was young with money that I wanted to put into a house.
Yeah.
And it was such a stressful experience. So what I did without telling anybody, I wrote an entire pretty much story about what this real estate agent did for me, what this loan officer did for me. And they had no idea. My realtor, her name's Kim, she called me crying. She said, I was having the worst day and you advertised me for free. And I was like, well, I thought anybody else buying a home needs to know who you are. So I think that's something important that you can do just to build those relationships is feature people like that, tell their stories.
I love that. It's huge. And the other aspect to that is when you share someone else's story, then they're going to share it, which means now their people are getting to experience the storyteller of the story, which is now the girl that they don't know, but they're going to be intrigued by.
Well, it's building your brand. I'm somebody who loves to network, build relationships, tell stories. I mean, my dad is a storyteller and like we kind of grew up like that. And I went to school for broadcast journalism, so I'm a storyteller. And when that post got shared and I got, I think a couple hundred likes on it and comments, engagement,
Yep.
Like that's who I built my brand around.
And you know what's sad is that most realtors and lenders that I know, they just want to get the job done and then ask for the review instead of serve the crap out of you so that you can't wait to let the review out yourself.
Yep.
It doesn't sound like your realtor asked you to do that.
No, absolutely not.
Right. It was just like an overflow out of your heart of just joy and excitement and energy. 10 more words that you could have probably used to describe that. And that makes what you said so much more valuable.
Yeah.
Than if she's like, oh, hey, Morgan, could you go put a Zillow review out there for me?
Yeah.
So we just don't get it. Like we look at things so backwards.
We do.
And so I want to come back to like mortgage because that's been your jam for 3 whole months now. And so where have you seen, we're not going to name names. We're not going to we're not going to call anybody out, right? But where have you seen mortgage lenders specifically just missing the boat in their ability to brand themselves and market themselves through social?
So many things, but
so many things.
I would say that I think people see a trend that they see somebody doing and they hop on 5 to 10 to 20 trends all at once and get lost in the jumble. Or if I recommend somebody go on social media and create an account, you don't have to be a master of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, like all of them in one day. Like, don't do that. Invest in what your clients are spending their time on. So this is another little tip that I always recommend people do is write down your top 5 clients, your top 5 referrals, your top 5, like anything, write them down and see where they came from. Where do they spend their time? Are they scrolling through Instagram for hours? Are they on TikTok for hours? Are they on Facebook? Or do they love podcasts? See where they're spending their time. Because if you put yourself there, you're going to find their twin. You're going to find their lookalike. And so be intentional about that. Don't just say, I'm going to be on Instagram because I like Instagram or because so-and-so's mom said I need to be on Instagram. Be intentional about where you're spending your time because that's where they're spending their time.
It's so good. And with that top 5, you can also do tons of other things. You could identify the age of your top 5, and that unlocks so many, clarifying things with the way we market and brand. You can unlock what part of town the top 5 live in.
Yep.
And now you can instantly go, wait, what? So I don't need to market to like those 4 cities anymore? None of my top people are in those cities? That's so freeing.
It is.
And you already mentioned Still Like an Artist. And we had our Still Like an Artist book club this morning. And in the book, it talks about how with limitation comes freedom.
I love that.
And it's almost like an oxymoron because, right, like if we're not careful, we will live our lives going, I can sell a house to anyone. I can close a loan for anyone. And it feels good. But then when you go, oh, but like, what should I post? How do you create a post for everybody?
Yeah.
So when you begin to understand that inside of limitations, there's actually freedom, it's a very powerful way. Right. So cause you talk about buckets, right? That's your reference point.
Yes, it is.
Right. So talk to us about, because buckets are interesting because you could have 30, probably wouldn't be very good.
Takes a lot of time to fill up all 30 of them.
So talk to us about like how you explain buckets, the value buckets bring, what's the right amount of buckets? What are we putting in the buckets? Let's talk about buckets.
Okay. Well, before we hop into this, I wanted to say that one of my favorite things that you have ever said is if you are everyone's flavor, I'm probably butchering this. If you are everyone's flavor, then your flavor probably isn't bold enough.
It's good.
And that's something that I think, again, is so freeing.
Yeah.
Because you shouldn't be filling up everybody's bucket. You should have the 3 buckets, or if you want 5 buckets, you can have them, but be intentional about filling them up. So something that I always tell everybody is if you want to build a business, a social media following, anything, the key is planning. So many people spend an hour every single day trying to think of some good, catchy quote, catchy post. They're sitting there for an hour, 2 hours. I've had people who spend 4 or 5 hours just thinking about this one post that not everybody is going to see. I mean, maybe if it goes viral, well, which happens like 0% of the time, but be intentional about your time and planning. So what I typically recommend is if you want to be strategic, which of course you should, if you want to talk marketing, branding, social media, spend once or twice a month on your Sunday, spend 4 or 5 hours sitting down, being intentional. I have a list of things that inspire me that I'll see on social media or I'll hear, and you can reuse that content.
Yeah.
Write it down, create a note. So if you have a Mac or whatever, create a note section of things that inspire you or that you want to talk about, and save that for your content planning day. And I also discussed, so these 3 buckets is being intentional. So say your 3 buckets are, again, social media, family, and then what was your third word, Kyle?
Real estate.
Real estate. Say you want to plan out your week. So on Monday, I'm going to talk about every Monday, I'm going to do this one tip for realtors. And then all you have to do, if you look at it, you just have to create 4 tips for that. And then on Wednesday, I'm going to feature my family. So there's 4 family photos. So you can plan out your week around that and your month around that. So you're really being strategic with your time.
Yeah, I love it. Why 3? Why not 4? Why not 2? Why not 5?
I said if you want 5, you could do it, but 3 is a lot easier. So if you think about it, not everybody's seeing your posts on social media.
Right.
So it's only, and you know this, but not everybody knows this. So if I post something, my top followers, my top engagement, they are going to be seeing them. And if it looks like I'm sporadic and all over the place, then they will not loop me back in. So if they see a post and I'm all about philanthropy, I want them to see that. If I'm about my family, if I'm about whatever it is, it's easier to loop them back into those 3 buckets. And again, the whole concept of if you confuse, you lose. Let's narrow them down. So people, if I meet you in person, you're like, oh my gosh, you're the networking girl, or you're the I want people to meet me and know that.
Yeah.
And it also makes makes it super easy for people to refer you.
Right.
And this is a little networking tip that I do want to plug is,
yes, please.
Creating a group. So I ran a networking group of people in the high-end interior design industry for 3 years. And we were each other's fans on social media, in public. So what we would do was, and I highly recommend anybody who's trying to build their business to get involved in a networking group, start a networking group that is efficient with your time. So when you go out in public, you should memorize their networking presentation. Mm-hmm. So you should memorize their elevator speech. They should memorize yours, because when they're introducing you, it sounds like a referral instead of you talking about yourself. So there's that. But also a plus out of this is we had a group message, and anytime one of us would post a new post, we'd say, hey, new post. We'd all go on social media and start liking, commenting it on these posts. So nobody wants to be the first one to like or comment or engage on social content, but I already had 5 people liking it and engaging and saying congratulations or whatever it is. Right. It's all about being strategic and being fans of other people.
And what I love the most about it is if you decide, like, you're the leader of that group, for any of our listeners, they could be the leader of this group. You get to lead with value. Yep. Right, guys. The point of this group is we're going to support one another. Not the point of this group is when I post, I need you guys to go engage it. Right. So you're leading with value. So for a lender, they could easily go approach a realtor and say, hey, come be a part of this. Right. It's value add to them. I'm going to bring in people that are going to engage your content. And that's super simple. We called it, again, because I'm old. We didn't call it a networking group because we would just call it an edge ranking group.
Oh.
Right. So it wasn't about, like, there was no networking involved in what we did. Technically, we were just a Facebook group that were committed to helping each other's post go further.
Yeah.
And then through that, you become friends and you start referring business. But at first, the only value was, wouldn't you like more likes and comments from like real people that live in your city? Yeah, me too. Okay, great. Let's get 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 of us together. And it was really powerful back in the day with Facebook. And so this stuff works.
And now it's a not thoughtless, but like now it's natural. It's a habit.
Yeah.
And I mean, anytime you see this, anytime you share something, anytime any of the people in my social circles share something, I write real comments celebrating their success. And I mean, I approach any meeting, any situation is, what can I do for you? And people that have met me, they're like, you give and give and give, and you don't ask for anything in return, because it comes back.
Yeah.
It comes back. Even if it doesn't, it's okay. But I'm here to give and celebrate you and be your cheerleader on social media. And that's how you really grow a brand in a business.
100%. And I have a random question that I just thought of that might kind of put you on the spot. Do you receive this challenge?
I accept.
Okay. So you are a regional VP of marketing for Movement Mortgage. You've been there 3 months. You're incredible at what you do. What do you foresee your loan officers being better at 90 days from now because of your influence in their marketing?
I want to say consistency is probably the top one because I'm consistently giving them content and ideas to post on, which before that was an obstacle to not do it.
Yeah.
And across the board branding. So there's a loan officer out of San Antonio. We had a sit down and I talked about her colors.
Yeah.
What colors? And so we actually sat down and I was like, what represents you and your brand? And I like to say, like, if you walked into a lobby and it was your dream business, what would that lobby look like? You can design your brand around that. Are there wallpapers, fun colors? Is it bold? Is it edgy? Is it cool? What is that experience? And turn that into your brand. So this is something that I'm trying to get across the board is that their brand should be known, and it is. And I'm watching it come through on social media, which sounds so silly, but it's in the photos, it's in the captions. The brand is consistent and you can tell it.
Well, and what's so funny about all this, so my dad, you don't even know this. So my dad's written a book and his favorite color is lime green. He pretty much wears lime green every day, whether it's a hat, a shirt, his shoes, shorts, and his book is lime green. And so literally people text him pictures of lime green Jeeps, of lime green plates at restaurants, anything lime green. Everyone that knows my dad is like, Randy Draper would love that. Randy Draper would love that. Randy Draper would love. And it just allows him to be so top of mind to people for something as silly as a color. Like that's the power of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right?
That's branding. I mean, it is.
That's branding. And when he first really started loving lime green, right, there were always those people who are like, dude, you wear lime green so much. And because he fought through that negativity, right, he is the lime green guy. And he could try to change colors and it wouldn't work because he's been the lime green guy for 30 years.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. So I want you to just have the final words of the show. Right. And in your State of the Union address to the nation of social media, like what would just be your final tip or your word of encouragement? Like what do you want to leave the people with? If
social media were to fall off the face of the planet, which it's not today, what have you taken away from it? So you can still spend so much time building this brand, building this presence. But if you actually don't create relationships beyond it or use it as a tool to build up your business, to build relationships, then you're missing the boat.
Come on. Boop. Mic drop. Morgan, how does everybody find you? We'll put it in the show notes.
Social media, obviously, Instagram, Facebook are my two. I'm a big Instagram nerd.
And your handle is what?
Morgan_Heinrich_. And
the double underscore.
If you want to see some dogs, so I'm actually very involved in local rescues around here, Saving Hope Rescue. I have 2 huskies and then a lab husky mix. And if you want to see pictures of that, of kickball, of anything fun and inspirational, check it out.
I haven't seen a kickball picture yet. So I'm gonna have to go find one because that's what I want to see.
You don't have to dig too hard. You'll see them.
Morgan, you're the best. Thank you. You're busy. And so I appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you so much for your time today, Kyle.
You are welcome. Guys, get your butt in gear. Go listen to this again. Go rewind it. Do what Morgan says. And then we'll be back real soon with another cool person that probably doesn't play kickball, but they'll do something else that's cool. And we'll see y'all in the next episode of the Social Media Mindset. See ya.